If someone had told me a year ago that I would marry a man meant for my sister, I would have laughed. But life doesn't ask for your permission before turning everything upside down. And sometimes, what feels like a trap turns out to be destiny in disguise. It all began on a rainy Tuesday, the kind that makes the streets look like mirrors and your heart feel heavier than usual. I was in the back room folding laundry when Mom called me into the living room, her voice sharp and trembling. "Emily, you have to marry for your sister." I froze. "What are you talking about?" Claire ran away. "The wedding is in 3 days. If the Carters find out we lied, they'll destroy our entire family." I couldn't speak. I could barely breathe. Marry Ethan Carter? The Ethan Carter, CEO of Carter Enterprises, young, powerful, and famously cold-hearted? It was a nightmare. And yet, the desperation in Mom's voice, the fear in Dad's silence, it broke something inside me. And I said yes. The wedding was quick and silent. No music. No guests. Just me, in a borrowed white dress, pretending to be someone else. He didn't smile. His eyes were ice. His voice, when he spoke the vows, was emotionless. But he didn't stop. He signed the papers. He took my hand. And just like that, I became Mrs. Carter. The first few weeks felt like a prison sentence. He didn't talk much. Left early. Came home late. I was alone in a mansion full of mirrors and marble, wearing a title I didn't earn. I tried to be like Claire. Walked like her. Spoke like her. But I wasn't her. And I knew it. One night, I couldn't hold it in anymore. "I'm not her," I said, standing in the doorway to the kitchen, tears running down my face. "I'm not Claire. I'm just the girl you got stuck with." He stared at me. For a moment, I thought he would say nothing. But then, he walked toward me. And for the first time, he hugged me. "You think I didn't know?" he whispered. "I married you because I wanted to." That night changed everything. He started coming home earlier. He'd bring me books. Sit beside me in silence. Ask me about my day. And just like that, I started falling for him. But love doesn't come without shadows. 2 months later, she came back. Claire. Alive. Gorgeous. Smirking like nothing had happened. She stepped into our home in a red dress, her lipstick sharp as her glare. "You took what was mine," she said. "And I'm going to take him back." I stood frozen as Claire's words echoed in my ears. She looked at me like I was a stain on something that used to be hers, her voice sweetly poisoned with entitlement. Ethan stood behind me, silent. I could feel the tension in his body. "You think this little game of playing house makes you his wife?" Claire tilted her head. "You're just a placeholder, Emily." I opened my mouth to speak, but Ethan stepped forward. "That's enough," he said coldly. Claire blinked, stunned. He moved beside me and gently placed his hand on my back. "Emily is my wife. Legally. Emotionally. Completely." I had never seen that side of him, so certain, so fierce. It shook her. It shook me too. But Claire was never one to back down quietly. After that day, she didn't leave. She moved into the guest house, claiming she needed time to rebuild her life. But every moment she spent here felt like she was chiseling cracks into mine. She wore dresses I'd never dare to wear. She flirted with Ethan over breakfast. She called him by old nicknames that made my skin crawl. At first, I tried to ignore it. Pretend it didn't bother me. But it did. One night, I asked him, "Do you still love her?" He looked at me, startled. "No," he said firmly. "I never did. Not the way I love you." It should have been enough. But Claire didn't stop. She began planting seeds of doubt, quietly, cunningly. She told the maids I was infertile. Told the board members I'd forged the marriage license. sent anonymous tips to gossip blogs claiming I seduced Ethan for money. It wasn't long before whispers followed me everywhere. And Ethan, he was under pressure from all sides. Investors. His own family. The media. I saw it in his eyes. He was tired. Torn. And that was exactly what Claire wanted. One evening, I walked into his office and saw her sitting on the edge of his desk, laughing. His face was blank. Cold. Like I wasn't even in the room. I left before either of them noticed. My chest ached. My legs went numb. I wandered the empty streets for hours. Rain began to fall again, just like the night this all began. Except this time. I felt like I was truly alone. When I came home, I found Ethan waiting for me in the foyer, soaked from the rain. He looked desperate. "Where have you been?" he asked. "I needed air," I whispered. "You thought I believed her?" He stepped closer. "You think I would ever let you go?" I didn't know how to answer that. So instead, I asked the one question that had haunted me for weeks. "If she hadn't left, would you have married her?" He took a deep breath. His answer was soft, but it shattered everything. "No." And then, louder, "Because I never saw her the way I see you." That night, he held me like I was something breakable. As if losing me had become his greatest fear. And for a moment, I believed we could survive anything. But I was wrong. Claire wasn't done yet. She hadn't come back to win him over. She came back to destroy me. And she was just getting started. It started with small things. My favorite silk blouse, shredded and stuffed into the trash bin behind the mansion. The antique vase Ethan's mother had gifted me, smashed on the floor with no explanation. My phone, gone for an entire day, only to be returned with several unsent draft messages to Ethan, filled with things I would never say. At first, I thought I was losing my mind. But I wasn't. Claire was playing a game. And the worst part? She never left evidence. One morning, I found a pregnancy test on the bathroom counter. 2 pink lines. Positive. But it wasn't mine. Claire was sitting at the kitchen table when I came down, sipping tea like a queen in exile. She smiled as she glanced at my pale face. "Oh, you found it," she said sweetly. "You left it in the bathroom, silly." I stared at her, heart pounding. "That's not mine." She tilted her head. "Are you sure?" "I mean, Ethan's been spending a lot of late nights in his office. Maybe he was just looking for something familiar." I wanted to scream. But I didn't. Instead, I walked away. Because I refused to let her see me break. But when Ethan came home that night, he looked distant. I asked him directly. "Did anything happen between you and Claire?" He frowned, caught off guard. "No." "Why would you even ask that?" "She left a pregnancy test." "Positive." His face darkened immediately. "That's not possible." But I didn't need him to deny it. I needed him to fight for us the way I had been fighting in silence every day. And for the first time, I wasn't sure he could. The rumors started soon after. That Claire was carrying his child. That I had tricked him into marrying me. That the real Carter bride had returned, and I was just a stand-in, overstaying my welcome. Paparazzi started showing up outside the gates. Gossip columns tore me apart. And Ethan, he was being pulled in every direction. The board wanted answers. His parents wanted the real bride. And Claire just kept smiling. I started packing my bags the night I overheard her telling him she still loved him. I was young. I made mistakes. But I never stopped loving you, she said, her voice trembling like a perfect actress. Can you honestly say you never loved me? Silence. I couldn't bear to hear his answer. I ran upstairs and began folding my clothes into suitcases, hands shaking. I didn't want to leave. But I refused to stay and watch her win. Not like this. But just as I zipped the last suitcase, the bedroom door burst open. Ethan stood there, breathless, his eyes wild. "You're not going anywhere," he said. I didn't speak. I couldn't. He walked toward me, grabbed the suitcase, and threw it to the side. Then he held my face in his hands. I was silent because I was stunned. Not because I agreed with her. "Emily, she's lying. I had her followed. The test wasn't hers. She's not pregnant. She never was." I blinked. "She's trying to ruin you. But I won't let her." His voice cracked at the end. And for the first time in weeks, I saw the man I had fallen for. Not the CEO. Not the heir. But the man who chose me over convenience. The man who wanted love over legacy. We stood there in silence for a long time, wrapped in something stronger than words. But deep down, I knew Claire wouldn't give up. And I was right. Because the next thing she did almost ended everything. It happened the following week. The Carters were hosting their annual charity gala, an event so grand, it could make or break reputations. Ethan insisted I attend, even though the whispers hadn't died down. "You belong at my side," he said, slipping a silver bracelet onto my wrist before we left. "Let them see." I held on to those words as we walked into the ballroom, his hand firm against my back. Cameras flashed. People stared. But for the first time, I didn't feel like a fraud. Until she arrived. Claire. In a floor-length black gown that shimmered like revenge itself. Her hand was looped around the arm of a man I didn't recognize, a well-known investor from New York. But that wasn't what made me stop breathing. She was wearing my dress. The custom gown Ethan had commissioned for me months ago. One I never wore, because it had mysteriously gone missing the week it arrived. My jaw clenched, but I smiled through it. That night, I danced. I laughed. I held Ethan's hand tighter than ever. And Claire? She watched me from across the room with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. By the end of the evening, I needed air. I stepped outside into the courtyard, trying to collect myself. The cool night breeze brushed against my skin like a warning. Then I heard heels. Clicking. Approaching. "You looked beautiful tonight," Claire said behind me. I turned slowly. "Almost made me forget who you really are." I didn't respond. She stepped closer. "You stole my life, Emily." "No," I whispered. "You gave it up." Her expression changed. Something cracked behind her eyes. "You don't understand what it's like," she hissed. "To be replaced by your little sister. To watch someone else live the future that was meant for you. I never wanted any of this." I snapped. I was forced into that wedding. I tried to be invisible. But he saw me. She laughed coldly. "Of course he did. You were new. Different. But that novelty will fade. And when it does, you'll be nothing." I looked her in the eye and said the one thing I knew she couldn't bear. "He doesn't love you, Claire. He never did." Her hand flew before I could react. The slap echoed across the courtyard. But I didn't flinch. I turned and walked away, face burning, heart racing, but spine straight. Because I knew I had won something she never could. His heart. The fallout came fast. She released photos the next day, fake ones. Edited images that made it look like Ethan and I had been dating long before the wedding. She claimed I seduced him while she was still engaged to him. That I tore the family apart. For 48 hours, chaos reigned. Reporters camped outside our gates. Sponsors pulled from the Carter Foundation. Ethan was summoned to an emergency board meeting. But he didn't panic. He held a press conference. "I was never in love with Claire," he told the world. "She ran from the wedding. Emily stepped in out of duty, but I fell in love with her by choice. The photos are fake. The claims are lies. And I will protect my wife at all costs." I watched from the hallway as he said it all. Calm. Clear. Unshakable. The man I married out of desperation had become the man I would choose 1,000 times over. And when he walked off that stage, past reporters and cameras, the first thing he did was find me. He didn't speak. He just pulled me into his arms. Tight. Certain. Home. As for Claire? She left the country soon after. Silently. Alone. No headlines. No fanfare. Just a woman who had lost everything by trying to steal what was never hers to begin with. And me? I wake up every morning next to the man I once feared. The man who chose me. Not because I was perfect. Not because I pretended to be someone else. But because I stayed, when it would have been easier to walk away. And in the end, that made all the difference. People often ask me if I regret it. If I regret stepping into a marriage that wasn't meant for me, wearing a dress sewn for another woman, saying vows with trembling lips to a man I barely knew. And my answer is always the same. No. Because sometimes, life doesn't follow the plan. Sometimes, it throws you into storms so violent you forget who you are, until someone reaches in and pulls you out. Ethan did that for me. He didn't fall in love with the version of me pretending to be Claire. He fell in love with the girl who burned toast on her first day in the mansion. The girl who sang off-key in the car. Who laughed too loud at old sitcoms. Who broke down in the kitchen and said, "I'm not her." He chose me, with all my fears, flaws, and everything in between. Marriage didn't come easy for us. We had to fight for it. We fought against lies, betrayal, jealousy, even against the ghosts of who we thought we were supposed to be. But in the end, we didn't just survive, we became something unshakable. And if I could go back to that rainy Tuesday, back to the moment Mom said, "You have to marry for your sister," I'd still say yes. Not because I was brave. But because somewhere deep down, my heart knew. This love wasn't a mistake. It was fate disguised as disaster.